Hope you all had a cracking weekend. We've got 5 games to go through in this analysis today, and one of them we're going to take about 5 seconds on them just for a quick rant on my Cowboys, and the rest of them we'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper. We're going to kick it off with the Sharks, 40-10 victors over the Raiders, and pretty clear structure, guys. We're going to go through some of the team stats just so you can get an idea of how good the footy was in terms of errors and all these types of things, and that's going to then transition to the fantasy points and the stats that come out of these games as well. Because sometimes if there's a tremendous amount of errors or if there's a lot of points like this one, you'll see the base stats drop. If there's a lot of errors and a lot of points, the base stats are pretty horrendous. And sometimes you're looking at a certain player and going, oh wow, I was pretty interested in them and they're a base stat type of player and it's in this type of game. So be aware of that. And it's cool to see preseason thoughts from everyone and what one game can do to people's thoughts on certain players as well. So I find all that very, very interesting. But the Sharkies 40-10 victors over the Raiders. And when we spoke about the Sharks in the team list video, we spoke about how full strength they basically were. And this could be the 17 that they run out with in round 1. And that was cool to see, them get into their work. And it did take some time. And the big win for the Raiders was the fact that they didn't play their frontline middles in Tapine and Corey Horsburgh. And they were winning at the start. They were winning 10-0 until Nicho Hynes went over with that ricochet off the kick. So that's the good news with the Raiders. They actually played their starters a lot less minutes than what you saw with the Sharkies, who did come out in the second half with their starters, with Adam Fanua-Blake, Trindle, and Jesse Ramian all scoring in that second, the beginning of the second half there. So that kind of stuff was interesting to see for sure as to how long they were playing those guys. But this is the first time that we did get to see them in the trials, and it will be the last time that we see them before Vegas in 2 weeks for them. So this was their proper hit out, and I think they'll be happy with their efforts at 40-10, and the Raiders will be happy with at least the beginning of games, just not so much the second half, but they did have the majority of their starters not come back on in the second half. So if you're looking at that as 2 tries apiece in the first half, and the Raiders will have that to come away with, which is ideal. On the Sharkies side, you're looking at the conversions there, and Nicho Hynes ended up with a groin niggle, which stopped him kicking after that first one. So be aware that if you saw Trindle kicking, Nicho did kick the first one, and then he had that groin issue, which stopped him and moved Braden Trindle to the kicking side of things. But let's look at the team stats to begin things in this one. Possession was very, very similar, but you're looking at time in possession, it's 54 minutes. And over the next four games that we do look at, that time in possession overall is going to be pretty important. And this is a fairly normal time in possession, especially with the completion rates of 74 and 75% respectively. So that's actually not too bad on that front. So let's move to some of the players now. Let's go through the Raiders to kick things off. And what we did see was KO Weeks show some incredible agility and speed and a bit of awareness as well. You can't continue to keep running sideways. You eventually have to straighten up. And he did that really, really well for that try. And they took him off after 20 minutes. And Chevy was back there for a lot of that from there. And they obviously changed that around plenty as well. But that one run for 56 meters, that's why he only had the one, is because he was only out there for 20 minutes and picked up that line break try assist with 3 tackle breaks. And it does look like he has taken a step up at that fullback spot, which is absolutely massive for Raiders and their fans. He's a bit too expensive to start with in fantasy, but I think that was awesome to see. Matt Timoko, I got a little bit of an eye on him, obviously, just with him dealing with that subluxation of his shoulder for a lot of the second half of last year. But he had 5 runs for 50 meters, a tackle break in there, and tackles had the 8 tackles for 1 miss. So a pretty stock standard little effort for him in a team that got beat with him not being on the park for super long. A lot of people are a bit frustrated what they saw from Tamale, thinking that Albert Hopewade might steal the spot back after round 1. And there's definitely a chance to that. But Albert Hopewade did come on and play center when he did. So, he didn't start, but when he came and got his opportunity, he was on for Seb Chris in the centers, and that's where you saw a lot of his runs come from. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Is that, the position that he's kind of covering, or is he getting some reps in all different spots? These are questions that will be answered in the first team list, which is great for both of these guys because they play in Vegas. We'll find out straight away with guys like that. But I thought Tamale had a couple of good runs. He did have an opportunity to put a little grubber through and kicked it a little bit long. But he did make one really nice catch into a 2 tackle break effort, which is where you saw those 2 breaks there. And he didn't play a lot of this game either. So I thought it was a pass mark for what we wanted to see out of Tamale, especially that catch and run was awesome to see. So I think that was a win. He picked up an offload in there as well. And the 1 tackle for 1 miss with that nice kick defusal, which was the one I was talking about there. So overall, a pass mark for him. And if you're looking at him and wanted to just roll with it at that price point, I think that's completely fine. Jamal Fogarty, guys, I think he looked completely solid. Good kick meters in this one as well. Tackling wise, 9 tackles for 1 miss. And I said 10 kicks for 327, with Strange taking 2 for 68 meters. So still a very high percentage, that 80-90% kicking ratio. And I think with how they began the game, you can hope for that on a little bit more of a regular basis when they do have their full strength middles as well. And then you're looking, they were up against a really top tier side in the Sharkies as well. So if you were interested in Fogarty, I think you can stay interested in him. With Tommy Starling, he did only have the 3 runs, but it was for 25 meters with 13 post contact, which was nice. Did get that start obviously there as well. And then tackles wise, it was 32 tackles for 2 misses for Starling, which is pretty stock standard in those types of minutes. He's very much a workhorse and actually had 1 kick as well out of dummy half. So very happy with Tommy overall on that front. Just have a quick look at all the tackle numbers just to make it a bit easier for everyone, so I don't have to keep scrolling over to the end here. But Trey Mooney had 31 in there. He had Morgan Smithies was 40, so just continues to get into his work. We saw Nicholson in that first trial have 32 tackles for no misses, and in this one it was 21 for 3 up against a better side in the Sharkies this week. So that's him. We'll have to see where he does end up in this starting side, if he does. And as I said, Albert Hopewade in this starting 17, I should say, for Matty Nicholson there. And Albert Hopewade, 11 tackles for 1 miss. He did play in the centres in that one there. And Adam Cook came on and played plenty of minutes as well. 17 tackles for 3 misses on his front there. Some good numbers here for a lot of the guys. As I said, that second half was absolutely filled with all these guys in the high numbers, we'll say, for trials, all getting up towards that 20 tackles and above. So, yeah, great to see guys like Ethan Sanders again, but pretty clear to see that they're in that second string. And it was funny to hear Ricky as well talk about, he was fine with Tarpanay and Horsburgh. They're fit and good to go, so you didn't even need to throw them out there in this trial. So, very, very confident from him, and for all the other guys to need to get out there. I suppose it's potentially a little bit different for middle forwards. It's bit more up and down the center. You're making tackles, you're doing your runs, and you can do a lot of that at training, where it's like, situationally with decision making and stuff. The other guys need to get that little bit of a hit out against, different opposition, I think, compared to coming up against your same opposition at training, I think, would be more the play if I'm thinking critically on that style of, the way they're going to play it and what you need as an attacking type of player for sure. Let's move to some of the other guys now as well. So I thought Starling was a pass mark. If he happens to not have a Danny Levi at 14 and they go for a different type of utility, he's definitely going to be an interesting player to look at for sure. All right, we're on to run meters. Moving on, Huddy Young looks really solid as well. Not a problem with him. Smithies, as I said, big numbers, but how's that going to work with Tapani and those guys back? And the big thing with Hopewade, guys, is the run meters. He looks really, really good with ball in hand. Very dynamic. So that's the worry with Tamale on that one there. So let's leave the Raiders at that one and move to the Sharks. And it's a bit of a tough one with this Sharks outfit, because the big thing we're looking at was probably Nico Hines v Trindle. And I don't think we got to see enough of it. They didn't start great, the Sharks, and that's kind of where you can look at it and stress a little bit. And Trindle did kick more than Hines. Yes, he did end up with a groin issue. So I don't think we'll get to see exactly what we want to see. And I think most people aren't selecting Hines, but if Cleary was to go down, I still think that Hines could be a really solid pick. But that groin tightness is a bit of a worry now, obviously a couple of weeks out, and they've got to fly and all this type of stuff. That's not going to be super comfortable for him. That's kind of the worry with him right now. heading into Vegas. And really, really happy with how Sam Stone Street looked as well this week. Seems to be definitely next up, next cab off the rank if there's an injury, and I think he'll perform really well. Might not be great for fantasy, but I think he's in a really good, solid spot. And then we looked at a few of the forwards. It was great to see Adam Finnell-Blake out there, a bit of footwork, was able to get over for a try, which was really, really cool to see. I think Blake Brayley was solid. We saw Jaden Beryl off the bench as well have a cracking game. And then guys were looking at Teague Wilton, so he had 8 runs for 78 metres, which was lovely. And then tackle-wise, he ended up with 18 tackles and 0 misses. So a lot of the work was on the other side with Britton Nikra. And Teague also went off, so didn't play a tremendous amount of minutes as well compared to some of the guys like McInnes and Nikra, who loves a missed tackle himself. And looking down the line, some of the middle forwards, I thought Tapua was absolutely dynamic. 14 tackles for no misses as well, to go along with his terrific running of the footy as well, which we'll get to here with 108 run meters. I thought that was really impressive and picked up that try as well. So he's the guy on the bench to look forward to. And the question is going to be, does he push his way into some sort of 30-minute role or so? Does he push his way ahead of like a Hamlin Uele? I'm not sure. But he's going to be the guy to look forward to watching. And at that cheap price in fantasy is going to be pretty cool at some point. Is it going to be, in a 15, 20-minute role and he kind of outprices himself? Or is he going to potentially get some minutes from ball one and we might jump on him then? That's the interesting one, but he's a big hunk of a lad, that is for sure. So again, not too much else to say on this squad, guys, just because it's very settled. There were no injuries that came out of it, and they've got Sione Katoa to come back into it. I even had a mini look further at Trindle, but I think it would have been a bit more shared. And once I saw that he was goal kicking, I was like, oh, crap. And then, once you hear about the groin tightness, unless Hines is going to be out, then Trindle could be fun. But you'd have Atkinson in there that would likely take a little bit away from Trindle as well. But speaking of Trindle, he does end up in the tries at all times. So kicked some goals, obviously, and then had the try himself. And it's just good to see their whole squad out there. They've got firepower at all avenues, especially on that bench now with guys like Hamniwele, with Hazleton, with Tapua, and then you've got guys like Sifa Talakai to go along with Atkinson at 14. It's a really, really great setup of a squad. I'm very, very impressed with how they're looking. Let's go and knock out the Cows and the Finns game while we're here, because that was gross. So shout out to the Dolphins organisation for coming out and playing terrifically well, and for the Cowboys defensively, an absolute shocker. But we also saw a few other teams get beat pretty comfortably there. But just, I think it's just awesome to see for the Finns that they can come out and do some awesome work. And for Rob Darby lovers, he did end up with 150 metres, which is what he does. He did score a try, which can be what he does, but he did have 4 errors in that first half, which was not great viewing. And I think that, with Jackson Paulo not kind of playing great either, they did have a couple of first graders in there, and I think I really enjoyed watching Kai O'Donnell and how hard he ran the footy. We had Lawton in there, is going to be back up. Hess coming back was good, obviously get him a hit out, but 2 runs for 17 metres. That's, not what he needed in this type of game. You need to get out there and blow the cobwebs off and not get beat by 40 odd, that's for sure. So that's that for the Cows. There's not much there. And there's a few more obviously first graders in this squad. Having Averillo and O'Sullivan in there was really helpful to get them around the park. And congrats to a few of the guys that we don't know a lot about. They were able to come out and showcase their skills. Thought that was really impressive. And we've obviously had Harrison Graham, Mason T, Kurt Donahue play plenty of NRL as well. And shout out to all those guys that are big run meters and did awesome stuff. Ethan Quay Ward off the bench, we know as well. Not a lot to take out of this game, apart from the Cows being pretty poor. And so let's go to the Knights Eels one, which gave us a fair bit of information, in my opinion, there with the Knights. All right, let's go straight to them. But firstly, the team stats, which is what is important at this point. Okay, here's a massive difference. So I said 55 minutes it was in that first game that we mentioned with the Raiders and the Sharkies, a bit more of a higher quality fixture. We then moved to this one here, and it's 26 minutes for Eels and 19 minutes for the Knights. So that is pretty disgusting. It's a tick under 46 minutes ball in play, so almost 10 minutes less than that first game. So when you're looking at the stats in this one, take it with a grain of salt. 69% completion for the Knights, 75 for the Eels, which wasn't too great at all. So let's go into some players there and talk about some of the impressive parts of it and some of the disappointing sections. And yeah, obviously Will Price, it looks like he'll be looking at sort of backup fullback at some point. With the move of Fletcher Sharp to 6, most likely going to be happening. And that makes sense now because Fletcher would have been the backup one. And if there is an injury to KP now, I think that Fletcher wouldn't move. If that's where they're trying to push him to get a spot in this side long term with the quality and the skill and the talent that he has, I think that ends up being a good decision for him because is he going to want to sit at wing when he's a fullback? He's a terrific runner of the footy, so maybe you can throw him in at 5/8, and that left-hand side actually looked a lot sharper, to be honest with you. And sometimes Cogger, or that try to Greg Marzu is what I was clearly looking at. It was Cogger getting out in front, straightening up the line, getting it to Fletcher Sharp, who has the pace and can worry teams, and then it was bang out the back, and then get it out to Greg for a nice, fairly easy try, which is something they did pretty regularly in 2023, which was avoided at all costs basically in 24, and just wasn't happening for them on that side. And I think that if Fletcher Sharp's there, yes, the ball playing and stuff will need to continue to improve, but having that threat of speed kills, doesn't it? So I think that's very, very helpful for them. If they can continue to build that combination longer term, then I do think that could help someone like Greg Marzu and Bradman Best out on that left-hand side with the way that they can play. It's very, very impressive. And what I saw with Greg was some great running of the footy. There's a couple of times I actually kicked to him off the kickoff, and we know that's not super ideal, getting him running back here for sure, but 9 runs for 129 meters, and he did have the couple of tackle breaks as well. So just, I think in that short space of time that he was out there in that first half, I think he looked really, really strong, and it's something that he wasn't showing enough at a lot of certain times last year. He wasn't himself, wasn't running with that much pace, so it's good to see him fresh and ready for a big season. The Will Price was fine. Didn't get to show off too much in this one, with obviously the Eels coming out and showing, giving Jason Riles a nice first game as coach in a trial game, obviously. But we'll get to them in a sec. With the Knights, it was really that side. Cogger was fine. He obviously did the majority of the kicking in this one here, going for what did I say, majority of kicking? No, he didn't. I lied. What happened there? Yeah, actually, well, I was just too busy watching Greg on that one. But Tyson Gamble coming in and actually kicking for the 295 compared to Cogger. Was that right? Yeah, actually, it was all running and drop balls, wasn't it, at the start of the game? Yeah, wild one while Cogger was on. But I think, in that shape, and it looks like this is the combination it's going to be. And I do expect in a game that's going to be a little bit more back and forth that we will see Cogger kicking a little bit more, but that is definitely a worry because, that's right, the first few kicks Will Price had, and then, obviously Tyson Gamble came on later. So scratch that, guys. My apologies. I did feel like he was involved a lot more, but it was more with ball in hand, running and passing rather than on the kicking side. So he looked fine, and the big question would be, like, if you've got Metcalf, who we'll speak about in one of the next games, he does look better than Cogger in general and is kicking goals as well. So that's where that price point is like, well, do you just go for Metcalf and then instead of getting Cogger, do you just push up to Munster or something like that? And it's likely to be a yes, even if the stats say it could be decent. Because you're going to have, like Will Price did, you're going to have Ponga kicking at the back as well, which doesn't happen. It's not going to happen for the Wars. It might be 6 and 7 that do kick a little bit and potentially a little bit of Egan, but you don't have that fullback worry as well. So he was fine, but stats won't say that was a great game overall for his fantasy prospects. There's definitely some worries around Jaden Brayley at the moment too, so I think just in terms of them like shopping to move him and stuff, so don't get too excited about Brayley. I thought that maybe if he could get close to 80 minutes, but it sounds like he's on the outer, and that probably shows a little bit now. It makes more sense as to why he was getting benched at certain times last year or not playing full games, because maybe they don't see the benefit of having him as their, he was captain 2 years ago. It's wild how things can change. Hetherington didn't have a great game. I thought Thomas Kant ran really well, really, really hard, plenty of vigor, which was good to see for him. Tackles his heart out as well, which is what we want. And it backs up what the stats are saying, and he'll continue to improve. Kaipi's Paul looked okay. Didn't seem like he had a big improvement in him by any stretch on the right. I think Tyson Frizzell through the middle ran with so much more pace and so much more agility and just looked stronger and better. There was one that Kaipi's Paul almost got through, but sometimes it looks that way because he's just rangy. But the guys didn't seem like they were having too hard of a time trying to bring him down for the most part. It was good to see Frizzell through the middle, and it's going to open up Dylan Lucas on that other side. And we will go through the other 4 games, which will be the All-Stars game and then today's 3 games. Once I've been able to finish those, I'm making this at 6:30 p.m. while the other games are on. 7:38 game hasn't even started, but this will be out by the time, or just before, I imagine all of the games are done, and you can get into this and do some learning, which would be good. So thanks for jumping in and checking these out. You've got a few guys there. I think Seb Sewer has got plenty of talent there, so 77 run meters for him was good to see him get that opportunity. And I just had the one, I think, last year we got Sin Min in one of those games. And then Gamble, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. He obviously had plenty of kicking in this one, and there was talk of him potentially being the 7. So that position is probably still up in the air as well, which it seems like with the Warriors, it's probably a little bit more set in stone with someone like Metcalf compared to Tanner Boyd. Although I will say, Chanel Harris-Tavita looked really solid in that game. We'll get to that very, very soon. Okay, Yongi. Let's get off with the Eels with him, and didn't have to run the footy very much, but he also didn't have many opportunities to run the footy. And when he did run it back, I said over 10 return meters, 10 meters per return, which was good in those three returns that he did have. And 9 post contact, but he never had any space. And the one time he got the ball in attacking territory, he double pumped and sent it to Jake Tunga on the wing there and put him over for a try. So that was awesome with that line break try assist there, which was great for Supercoach as well if you're interested in that. And I think that he showed enough in a team that obviously has a little bit of attack, which is good, that he should be good enough to be a starter in our teams, which is what we were hoping for, what we're expecting, and should be the case. Dylan Brown, he looked really, really good, fast, but the defense is poor. So that first try, he won't score that in a round game. You'd expect. We do see some soft ones, but that was very, very soft. He ran for 104 meters, which is great. Obviously had the line break assist, try assist as well. They did score 44 points, and he's the jet on this field basically. And defensively was 12 tackles, 1 miss, which is really solid as well. So this goes for the tackles on a few of the middles that we want to have a look at. And Brendan Hands, 17 tackles for no misses. That's the other thing actually as well. What do you got? Joash. Where's Joash in there as well? There he is, Joash. He looked great in the second half. Obviously, it was a different style of game in the second half, but he's got lots of talent at fullback as well. So I think Yongi looked good, and they've got Joash as well coming over from the Dogs. It looked very, very good. But let's get back to the tackle side of things. Charlie Geimer, he works really hard, and a few of the boys are like, he reminds me a bit of Hopgood. He just has a crack. He does miss a few tackles and jump out of the line and stuff, but I thought, I've had raps on him for, the games I saw him last year into this year. I thought he's been really good, and that was great to see. Unlikely to take that starting spot off Hopgood, but if Hopgood's not there, then he could be the 13. So do keep that in mind. I think it looks like Coach likes him. With Cartwright coming off the bench, 12 tackles for 2 misses. It doesn't seem like he's in favour. And Joey Lussick wasn't on for too long either. So with Bryce, just while we're there anyway, for run meters, 37 run meters for him in 5 hit-ups. So not super exciting on that front. And the 2 guys we will talk about now is Katonga, not sure how to say it, thank you, for everyone that's going to help me out in the comments. And then Kelma Tuolangi as well. 43 meters for Kitione. Had a couple of good runs as well, and then lost the ball a few times. So he's still raw, he's still got plenty to learn. Kelma with 84 run meters and a lovely line run. Running off Ronald Volkman, who had a really good game. So congrats to Ronald on that one. He's had a tough time of it the last couple of years, so that was great to see him out there doing good work. And with Katonga, 7 tackles for no misses. Kelma had 14 tackles for no misses in that first half. So a really lovely first half for him, getting in the mid to high 30s in that first half is exactly what we could have hoped for if we're looking to potentially own him. And if this is the way it lines up, you'd be pretty hard pressed to not take both of them, to be fair. We had this a couple of years ago when we ended up with Matt Dury and Bryce Cartwright. One of them became a keeper, which crazily could be, a keeper like near that 50 mark, which crazily could be Kelmer if he takes a step up. And Katonga could be Matt Dury, but get the 30s and then eventually lose his spot. But that would still be not the worst pick ever, and it'd be hard to decide which one's exactly going to be perfect. One being really cheap and one being mid-range. So feeling that's going to be an interesting little section that we need to follow and check out over the next couple of weeks until their game and their team lists. We'll also have to see if they do play in next week's trials as well. But that's the Eels. There's, Joel Fangawe and Wirra McGreg's guys to have a look at as well. As I said, Joe Ash is really good. And I think we'll leave it there with that one. So let's move on to the next one on the list, which I caught up with earlier today, which was good, was the Wars and the Storm. So what about the start in this game? They got out to an absolute flyer and they scored all 7 of their tries before the Storm could even get off the bus, basically. It was 7 tries to 0 in the first half, 36-0. That was some crazy work there at halftime. And it was great to see some familiar faces, guys like Tuapiki doing well, Roger getting a double, and Ali Leataua as well, who had he's a beast, man. He's going to be fun to watch. But let's quick look at those team stats while we're here. And the ball was in play a lot more. Not as much as the Sharks and Raiders, just a couple of minutes under that. But we're looking at 53 and a half minutes there in this clash. So not too bad overall, with an 80% completion for the Wars, which is going to be very important for them this year, and a 72% completion from the youngster Storm system, that's for sure. So I don't think they'll be very happy with it, but they'll be happy with at least the second half. And when you've got guys like, Failongo in there on the other side to beat them by the plenty, when, your majority of your team is first grade standard, apart from, you had a new fella in Eddie Iramea Tova in the centres, missing out on DWZ, obviously, missing out on Chance at the back, but then your 2 big bopper forwards in Fish and obviously Barnett. So it's still a really, really good effort, and you got to be proud of the boys for that effort there if you are a Wise fan. But as I said, 6 tries between those 3 guys. Tuapiki finished well on the wing. Same with Roger. I really liked him out there. And then Ale Leataua was just a beast, man. And he got some easy tries, to be fair. But 8 runs for 94 metres was great. He had the 2 try assists as well to help out on that right-hand side. And it looked pretty fresh. Obviously, when you've got guys like Metcalf who are very fast, and if you can get early ball to guys like Ali one-on-one, he's going to put himself in great positions to score tries or set them up on the other side there with Tane Tuapiki, or DWZ, or whoever's going to be there to start. And the big thing I saw with this, with Tane moving to the wing, guys, I think there's a decent chance that we do see him in round 1 on the wing with DWZ being out. So just keep an eye out on that one. And hopefully Chance is good to go as soon as possible and be back at fullback, and then they can move things around and get in position. And it does sound like Rocco Berry's not in a great way at the moment with some nerve issues in his neck. So if he can get a little bit better on that front, that'll be good for him as quick as possible. But if we're looking at Ali, he can definitely, looks like he probably should go 40 plus this year. Averaged 41 last year, but I think he can definitely stay there and improve on that in a longer time horizon. Luke Metcalf, he didn't get to kick the footy plenty, but it's because they were absolutely dominating. That's for sure. And you had CHT as well, kicking for 142 on that side, but a few of them were just more, it got to him all the way to the left on 5th, and then he was the first one to kick back to, which made sense. There weren't a lot of times where it was through the middle or on that right-hand side when they did need to kick, but for the most part, there was errors into them running and making some type of break and then scoring down their end. So it wasn't a free-flowing game for someone like Metcalf to be able to get all those opportunities. And you actually did see, receipts-wise, Metcalf only had the 21, but when he did get ball in hand, he looked really, really slick, and it was good viewing on that front. When he played with Chanel, it was 21-19, and kicking goals at a really high clip as well. I think he missed 1 or something in the end. So 1. Oh, but he missed 3. Scratch that. Wow. I've got the one that bounced off and went back in. But they're all 6 tries on the wings, obviously there. So 4 out of 7, not as good as I thought it was. But a little shout out to guys like Halasima. I think he really took a nice leap in yesterday's game, and shout out to Dan Kemp at Bloke in a Bar. He highlighted his run where he made a bunch of tackle breaks and looked really explosive. And then he on the other end of the ball, he picked up a burner and then got back in the line, and they targeted him and ran at him, and he was able to hit him really hard, even with a cooked arm. So that sort of stuff is really impressive, and it's what you want to see as a Waz fan going forward. So we spoke about the outside backs. I think Metcalf's still going to be a really good pick this year, and if the Waz can play somewhat like that against good NRL sides, then they should at least be able to hang in games, which would be really, really ideal for him. That's for sure. You got Valmaga on the edge there, 98 meters gain for him. Aaron Clark, another 134. He's really showing some skill on that side of the ball, 50 post contact meters. So that is some huge news if you are on the Aaron Clark train. When you're looking at tackles as well, it was 22 tackles for Aaron, 0 misses. It's massive. Valmaga 21 for 0 as well. So that is huge. And you've got some big boys that are working hard. We didn't get to see Laban in this one, obviously. But when you're looking at Halasima as well, 31 tackles for 2 misses. And Sam Heaney, the hooker off the bench, terrific again with 29 tackles, 1 miss. So plenty of good stuff to come out of this trial match, in my opinion, for the Waz, with a few of those youngsters. Metcalf kicking another 40-20, crazy. So really improving with the boot. And that was basically his only kick, which is hilarious. So Jackson Ford through the middle was fine. Egan had his moments of good stuff as well. And there's not too much else to say. Dylan Walker v Aaron Clark. We do have to see their trial team list, obviously, so we can get their Vegas team list, obviously, so we can get some more information. It's going to be hard to pick someone like Aaron Clark, even with those terrific stats at near 500k, when we don't know the minute split that's going to be between Clark and Walker. But I think he's played well enough in these trials to earn himself some good minutes. Is it just going to be 40 though, or is it going to be 50 or 55? That's the tough question that we will have to answer in this one for sure. And then finishing off with the Storm, there wasn't too much on their side of the ball that is relevant. You got guys like Stefano. I don't think he played too well. Came back on in the second half when they were improving and got some run meters, got a few tackle breaks as he does. But I just think he looked fine. Again, for that price point, yes, he had 24 tackles, 0 misses. That's all well and good, which is something that he can do. But he's a special for that kind of tackles if he gets a couple of misses, but 110, 130 meters and a couple of tackle breaks with an error and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a 40 again. He's just priced very expensive for someone that we don't know the minutes at the moment. So I think he'll be fine. That's starting. Obviously, they were getting whacked as well. So it's hard to judge too much on guys like him, Wishart, Joe Chan, Nathaniel Roach, all the guys that we've seen before. Judge, more on when it is a closer type of game. But they were, getting through you in the middle, like to build pressure. And obviously you guys, talking to Storm now, with the errors and stuff can be very, very difficult. But Sua, 64 meters only for him, not super ideal, but it is a trial after all. And then moving back to the final games, what have we got here? Tigers are up 14-10 over the Dogs right now. Not too very highly first grade teams, are they? And the Broncos going 50-12 over the Titans. So at least it wasn't just my cows that got 50 put on them in this one. But let's finish off with the Rabbitohs and the Seagulls, which I just caught up on as well. And shout out to Jai Gray, obviously, in a game that was full of for the most part, a decent amount of B grade players. Jai Gray really stood out for the Rabbitohs, which was great. Someone that didn't exactly stand out, Isaiah Tass. To be fair, they didn't end up with a terrific start. It was Eagles that were dominating with the first 3 tries in this one, and the ball didn't go out his way a tremendous amount. Lewis Dodd as well wasn't spectacular, unfortunately, in this one. I actually thought his partner in crime out there that played 6 was actually the better player, to be fair, which was Ashton Ward. I thought he came out and looked more energetic, looked more involved, wanted to run the footy more. I feel like Dodd just kind of hung back, and wasn't able to, Ward at least was trying stuff in that first section when they were getting dusted up. Whereas Dodd, I feel like he did hung back and wasn't able to show as much as we would have hoped, is kind of my thought with him. And then Tass, obviously, they didn't go much to his side, but he did miss 4 tackles, making 10. So Tass feels worrisome a little bit. When you look at last year's stats, it wasn't great. And there's a good chance that he's going to be similar to that unless the Bunnies can play well and he can score some tries and set some up as well. But the worry with guys like Dodd, the worry with guys like Tass, is that when you've got someone like Latrell, Cody Walker, these type of very attacking players, if they're not getting the tries themselves just through benefit of those guys setting them up, how many is Lewis Dodd going to set up when Latrell's and Cody are the big dogs? That's kind of the worry here. And he's priced way too expensive for now, Dodd, but I'm probably more thinking of it like a Supercoach perspective because he's $330K. That's something to note. And then Isaiah Tass as well. He's not based from price. He's over 300, which isn't crazy, but it's still something that you do need to think about with Tass and probably need to see him again, or I don't know. Centre is his spot too, and he's likely to play on the wing if Graham is back. So that's that. A lot of people were a bit low on Pete Mamzelis, and just he's playing in a team that didn't really have much, to be fair, and the Eagles looked a lot better. Pete made 36 tackles for 2 misses. He ran the footy, 35 metres or something like that in four runs. I think he was fine. There was a couple of plays that, the guys weren't on the same page, but he's running with players that aren't going to be in the first grade team, apart from, looking at Kepi and Moale. Those other guys in the pack, Thomas Fletcher, Luke, Lachlan Hubner we've heard of, Max McCarthy in there as well. All guys that he won't be playing with in first grade. So they're still they're going to get their combinations and everything like that and has been practicing with those types of guys. So I thought people were really low on him for a guy that, the other thing on the other side is you had Chen Kum Tong and Simkin both make line breaks, and obviously Simkin ended up with the try as well. So they completely outplayed him. But he's not that type of guy. He's going to make his tackles. He's going to do the job on that front and get the odd attacking stat. But he's got a almost 50 average in Cup. A lot of it's to do with, high tackle numbers near the 40 mark, and then getting his runs in and the odd attacking stat. And that's how he gets near that 50 on a weekly basis. So if he's named at 9, then I just can't see a world where you don't start with him. So, and the other one I wanted to touch on just to finish off was Davi Mwale. He ran the footy 170 metres, so that was wild. And both him and Kepi this was their trial. Surely they don't play again because they ran 20 runs for Kepi, 18 for Davi, and they were used plenty in 2 stints. So that was good to see, I suppose. I'm looking at Davi as he's a potential guy that has some value, but how much is the question. He did have 2 tackle breaks, got him to 21 points. Did have 1 error, to be fair. Between 2 tackles, no misses was great news. Kepi 20 for 1 was also ideal as well. And Lewis Dodd, at least he did make his tackles 20 for 0. So that's good news that he can get through that, the defensive side of the ball in a pretty solid way. But yeah, not too much else to say. We had Matt Humphries, who's the youngster, come on, and then Bailey Bentley Hape, who ended up scoring a try, I believe. Yeah, scoring a try and then converted that one as well and got 3 goals. So congrats to him on a good good afternoon out. And then let's move to Eagles to finish things off. And thanks so much for being here, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, I absolutely love it. I'm here all year, and this is my 5th year now, so you know what you're going to get from me. It's consistency, that's for sure. And if you haven't, hit follow on the podcast as well. And then last of all, we do have the private group, guys. Link is all the information is in the description. Read it all. Check out if that's something of interest for you. I can help you out one-on-one. We've got a bunch of legends in here. We've got the top 10 analysis, so I show you how they got there. And if you want to join in for prizes and competitions, we have a heap of competitions between tipping, between overall, head-to-head, Supercoach, all the good stuff as well. So if you want to check that out, please do. I do appreciate that. And with the Eagles, we saw Lehigh Hopewadi, who is likely to be in the starting side, but he's still in development contract, which is wild. But he looked really solid, made 16 runs for 193 metres, a couple of line break assists and a try assist in there with 3 tackle breaks. So came out and showed what we do expect from him. I thought their back 5 are really solid. So Willett looked good, Falalo, Aaron Shop there we know, and then Raymond Vega as well picked up 2 tries and looked really damaging and strong. He's a big, thick unit, isn't he? And yeah, Madison and Arthur were fine in the halves. They did their job. It was great to see Takeaho as well. 108 meters, I think 25 tackles or something crazy good. Yeah, 25 tackles for no misses. Jake Simpkins scored a try and picked up 35 tackles for no misses. And if we do hear Croker is likely to be out for anything longer than 3 weeks, I think Simpkin is a really solid pick, albeit, closer to Tom Starling range in the 400s. So keep an eye out on him. And we do see Paseka go off with an AC joint injury. Most of the time it's, because they got a few weeks off until they play next, it should be fine. But some of these things could linger or there could be more damage or whatever else. So keep an eye out on that. And it actually could mean that Takeaho could be back to being the gun fantasy option that we always had him at, but he's a lot older. But I was very happy with how he looked, to be fair, for his age. So yeah, happy for him on that front. Sipley was fine as well. 28 tackles, 1 miss. Good efforts on that front. I think the team in general had a really solid hit out. And you're looking at time in possession of just a tick over 50 and a half, it was 50 and a half minutes basically. So yeah, a decent completion rate, but plenty of stoppages as well, basically. So that's the interesting one there. Is completion rate was 80 and 75, which was the same as the Sharks-Raiders game, but a much lower time in possession setup. So yeah, interesting how that one can work out sometimes, and that just should change the stats a little bit, the way you look at them. Anyway, there. So that's 5 games. I can't believe I'd go through 9 in preseason. So if you do appreciate that, give us some love in the comments. Got to go through all the games. Granted, thankfully, I didn't go through too much of that Cowboys game. Once I saw the score, I was like, that sucks. And there's not really much relevance here, but all the rest of these definitely had some relevance. And I'm keen to go through the last 4 games and give you my thoughts around that sometime tomorrow, which would be awesome. So thanks, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.